Hello, everybody. Hello. I'm so excited to be here. When Chris asked me to speak, of course, I said that I would. And I just want to say a little something about Chris. I did meet Chris at Hackensack High School because I was hired to go in independently from my full-time job to go in and work with a group called SAVI, which stands for Students Against Violence and Victimization of Youth. And Chris was one of the members there because he really believed in making a difference in his school on that particular issue. And I trained those students to do some interactive theater around the issues of conflict resolution and anger management and anger displacement and all of that. And when I saw Chris, I was thinking in the back of my mind, I think he would be really good for reflections. And that's something that I always do. I always have my antenna up, because I'm always trying to make those connections for the people that I run into to see what else they could be part of that may be something bigger. So the other thing I want to say is that Bonnie Schwartz, who spoke before, was also part of Reflections, and they met just a little while ago because I connected the two of them so that this event could happen today. And earlier today, I met Christine, and she said that her older sister was part of Reflections. So, you know, this is a very big thing that is bigger than I ever imagined. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about Reflections and making connections. Reflections is a program that I'm the director of since 1990, and I created the program back then. And it runs out of the Bergen County Department of Human Services Division of Family Guidance. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a little while, but I want to focus now about making connections. So I'm wondering how many of you got a chance to speak to people today who you didn't know? How many of you got a chance to do that? Okay, it's so important to be able to connect to people and find out, you know, maybe something you have in common. So that being said, I'd like to bring the Reflections cast, some of the cast members who are here today. Let's come up here. We're going to do a little game. So let's come up, Reflections cast members, from dispersed throughout the audience. And we're going to do a game called Me Too. And I'll explain how this goes. So each of the cast members is going to make a statement. And if the statement is something that is true for you, all you need to do is raise your hand and say, Me Too.
Hi, my name is Katrina, and I'm loving the weather today.
Me too. Hi, I'm Harry, and I still have some work to do over the weekend.
Me too.
Hi, my name is Julia, and I have blonde hair.
Me too.
Hi, my name is Zoe, and I'm excited to be here today.
Me too.
This is my first TEDx event.
Me too.
I think it's important that you understand your strengths and your weaknesses.
Me too.
I think it's important that you enjoy what you do, not just endure it.
Me too.
I like to learn from others.
Me too.
Great. Let's give them a nice round of applause. Thank you. And they'll be back later for something else. So, you know, sometimes I meet kids and they say to me, oh, I really don't like him. I say, well, you don't even know him well enough not to like him. And why is that? You know, it's because that person has not taken the time to look at that other individual and find out how they could connect, because we could all connect on so many different levels. So, Reflections has a lot of different foundation stones that we use in our group, and we develop leadership, get the kids to be able to focus, their professionalism, building a team, the cohesiveness, taking responsibility, all of these things that you see here, and especially self-growth, being able to learn about themselves and learn about others and learn about all the different issues that we do performances on. So Reflections basically is a teen improvisational theater group that deals with adolescent issues, and we travel around to a lot of different places to do performances on all these kinds of topics through the use of improvisational theater. And we perform for parents, community groups, we do client groups, we do school assembly programs, And every cast member who's been part of Reflections through the years has learned so many of these different elements that they then take on with them to their college, to their jobs, et cetera, et cetera. And it's lovely when I can hear from the alumni who come back, and often we have reunions, to hear about how they're doing and hear how they've used some of these elements in other places in their life. So when they're on a job interview and questions are being fired at them and they just have to, come up with answers, that they're able to just think quickly off the top of their head and be able to do that. Or they're having a roommate conflict and they'll be able to learn how to work out conflicts and see something from someone else's perspective and not just their own. So that's all the kinds of things that we do in Reflections. One of the things that I really believe is a philosophy that I carry with me all the time is the yes and philosophy. For one, it is definitely a basic principle of improvisation that when somebody makes you an offer, you have to say yes and add to it, and then the scene can keep growing. If you say no or you deny what somebody's offering you, then everything stops. And this is such a basic philosophy in our lives too. If we can just have that yes and philosophy. If somebody makes you an offer about something, why not take that and run with it instead of saying, well, I don't really know if I can do it, or I'm not really sure, or I'm not too comfortable. Why not try it and see what happens? I really believe if somebody says to you, I think you'd be really good at blah, 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 it's because they're seeing something in you that maybe you're not even seeing in yourself. I just want to share a couple of things that happened to me with my yes and philosophy, and Reflections was definitely one of them. I am a licensed clinical social worker. I was doing other kinds of social work at the Division of Family Guidance, and the director of our agency at the time, this was in 1989, knew that I had a theater background because I do performing on the side, I do singing and acting on the side. And she asked me if I'd be interested in developing a program that would use teams to do improvisational theater, outreach theater to the community on all different kinds of issues. And I had no idea what she was talking about, okay? But I said to myself, this is an opportunity. And I said yes and then I figured it out, okay? And that, if I hadn't said yes and to that, I would have missed out on so much of my career, because I love what I do. And also the amount of lives that have been touched from this program, not only the audience members' lives, but the cast members who have been part of this program, as well as the interns who do their internships with Reflections. And so this wouldn't have existed had I said, well, I'm not really sure. The program has grown through the years, and I'm still growing it, and cast members come in with different ideas, our interns come in with different ideas, and I have different ideas as we go, and we keep on tweaking things, and that's what I love about it. Another time that I used the yes and philosophy was when a colleague of mine, Adam Blattner, who is a psychiatrist, who I've met through psychodrama conferences that I attend on an annual basis, he asked me if I'd be interested in writing a chapter for a book where every chapter in the book was going to be a way that you could use theater to help others, or to build community, or for educational purposes. And I had never written a chapter in a book before, but I knew I had something to say, and it was so important that this work was documented, and so I did that. And it's a wonderful book because every chapter has a way that you can use theater not just for entertaining, but for so many other reasons. Another time that I used the yes and philosophy was when I was auditioning for a musical called Godspell. And I had just finished graduate school. I just got my master's in social work, and I love to act, and I saw this audition, I went to audition, and the director of the show, after my audition, I got cast, by the way, too, but he did say to me, so what do you do in real life? And I said to him, I'm a social worker, and he said, I happen to be the chairperson of the sociology department at William Patterson University. Would you be interested in teaching at the university because we have an opening? And I said to myself, okay, because we all have that inner voice, right? I said to myself, what do I know about teaching other people social work? I just got my master's in social work. But I knew that that was an opportunity. That was one of those moments where he saw something in me, and he offered that to me, and I said yes, and that was back in 1987, and I'm still at William Patterson University, and I teach as an adjunct there, doing 2 courses. I do an Intro to Social Work practice class and an Intro to Human Services class, and I love it. And the students who I meet, I always try to help them make connections with others too. One of the assignments that I give my students is that they have to go reach out to a human service professional in the field and do an interview with that person so that they really get an understanding of what it's like to be in the field. I have one example where a student reached out to somebody, she was interested in the topic of rape, and so she interviewed somebody at the Rape Crisis Center, and she brought it back to the class and talked about that. By the way, now in Bergen County it's called the Healing Space, it's not called the Rape Crisis Center anymore. And because of that, that lit her passion, and then she signed up to do volunteer work there, and then after her volunteer work, she was hired by the agency. So you just never know when you are given an assignment to do, you don't know where it's going to lead. And so I think it's a really important message to take, that the networking is so important. One of the things I do at William Patterson is lots of times I give my students open book, open notes tests, because I really want to teach them to be resourceful, not so much about memorizing. And I don't always do that, but every once in a while I'm like, let's try this out. And those students who prepare do well, and those students who don't prepare, even with the book, don't do well. But it's a good lesson about, how am I going to find the answer to this? How am I going to problem solve this rather than having it just memorized? Okay. So another thing that I do, besides all the other things I just mentioned, is I'm the director of a company called Creative Interventions, and that is where I go out and I do team building with peer leader groups, and I will hire myself out to do a lot of different kinds of work and bringing people together on a lot of different kinds of issues and teaching people what I do. A lot of people say to me, Staci, you are the busiest person that I know, and you really should give something up. And honestly, there is not one thing that I find I could give up because I really love what I do. And I think it's so important to have that, have that passion, know what your strengths are, know what you get excited about. And I really do feel sorry for people who just go through the day and they get their paycheck, but they don't feel passionate about what they're doing. And I can say that it's fun for me, and I get a paycheck too, but that I'm really enjoying myself, with everything that I do. Some of you might know this. This is a diagram of 9 dots, 3 rows of 3, and it's a puzzle. So the instructions are, can you draw 4 straight lines without lifting your pencil from the paper through all 9 dots? And some of you might have done this before, and some of you might be looking at this saying, how would I ever do that? Well, I'll give you a hint that it does take some out-of-the-box thinking. And I think that Mark mentioned that earlier, something about thinking out of the box, or Donnella, maybe one of you did. I heard it earlier. And so I think it's so important that we have to think out of the box and how we're going to solve things, how we're going to create solutions. And by the way, the answer to this will be sent to you future dates. So. All right. Something I want to share with you too is about taking risks and being spontaneous. That when there's an inversely related, these two things are inversely related. So when we're really high with anxiety, our spontaneity level goes down. So if we're really stressed out about something, we can't really think through things very well. But if we can find a way to decrease our anxiety, then all of a sudden our spontaneity level goes up. And then we're able to free ourselves, be able to think out of the box, and think about a lot of different possible alternatives rather than just being rigid and always going for the same solution. So it's a real important message is to think about that. I'd like everyone to just humor me here and just take your hands, and if you could just fold your hands like you did when you were in elementary school. Okay. And just take a note how your thumbs are. Okay? And what I'm going to ask you to do, you notice that one thumb is over the other. So what I'd like you to do is to switch them so that the opposite thumb is now on top and the other one is on the bottom. And some feeling words about how that is for you when you do that?
Awkward.
Awkward.
Terrible.
Terrible.
Uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable.
Comfortable.
For some it's comfortable. Okay. Weird, I hear something. Okay. Now imagine what would happen if you kept on doing that every day. Eventually, what's going to happen? Eventually, that thing that was uncomfortable is going to become comfortable. And again, that's just such an important thing, that if you're not comfortable with something, when you're taking a risk about something, you got to keep on doing it. I have some cast members who come into reflections and say, or even before coming to reflections, they say, well, I don't know if I can be part of that group because I don't think I can be really spontaneous, or I don't think I can really, be up in front of everybody. And I say, well, how do you know unless you keep trying it? You're not going to get better at it unless you keep on doing it. And I could swear that every person who's gone through the Reflections program, from the beginning to the end, I see such growth in them. And that's always nice for me to see that. Speaking about growth doesn't happen unless the person who's in charge can let go. And I had to really learn that through the years. I had to let go of the process and let the process, just trust the process. It used to be that I would be in charge of everything. I would do all the new member orientations of every new person came in. I would decide who was going to bring snack the next week. I would decide how we're going to celebrate everybody's birthday, because this was all new to me, and I thought, well, in order to get it done, I have to do it all. But the process for me was being able to let go of that. And the more that I let go, and then the teens were able to become empowered, and now the teens own the work that they do, and they could be integrated more with it. And it's a lot easier for me too, so I can kind of just direct it and know that they're all learning and growing, but that I don't have to be the person who does everything, because I'm only one person. Just like all of you, and I think Danella had said earlier about surrounding yourself with people who can do things that you may not have how to do. And at the county, with the Reflections program, I have to say that the administration has been very supportive of this program, and without that, I wouldn't have been able to do what I'm doing. So I'd like to, to close here, bring up the Reflections cast again, and we're going to do something. Thank you, Brian. We're going to do something called fluid sculptures, just to put our portion here to a close.
I think I figured out those.
You did?
Yes.
Okay.
I have it right here.
Well, the answer's going to be sent to you, and I think it might be a good idea to not share the answer with everybody else, because then we stop them from being able to discover it themselves. So, all right. So what I'm going to ask you to do is to stand here with the chair on the side, just in case you need it. Why don't you come up to where Katrina is? All right. So to just close here. We need to have a feeling about today. A lot of you were here for the whole entire day, and if you can just share a feeling about this experience here today for you. So who has a feeling that you'd like to share with us?
Emotional.
Emotional. Where did that come from? Emotional. So can you just share a little bit about what was so emotional for you?
Some of the topics I'm dealing with, and it was like if they were talking directly to me saying, this is the function you need to do. And the most emotional was Bonnie, because, you saw your own child. I visualized her mom, how proud she must be. And I just got, it's like, wow, you see the happiness in her face. So that's why it's like emotional.
Emotional, and
yeah.
So today you said a lot of what you heard today was, you felt it was speaking directly to you.
Yes.
And especially with Bonnie, you were able to identify with the pride that her parent.
Because you worry, they're not where you pay for the education, you put them out there and you go out there, and she says, I'm going to swim the English Channel. What? So to see where it ends up.
So that resonated with you, the speaking to you, and being emotional and identifying with the pride.
Yes.
Okay. And your first name for everybody?
Jillian.
Jillian. So Jillian, with sound and movement, the Reflections cast is going to do something called a fluid sculpture for Jillian. So let's watch.
Wow. 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 Wow.
So emotional.
Wow.
So emotional.
Wow.
So emotional.
Wow.
So emotional.
Wow. Is this real?
So emotional.
Wow. Is this real?
So emotional.
Wow, is this real?
It's
So
okay.
emotional.
Wow, is this real?
It's so emotional.
It's okay.
Wow, is this real?
So emotional.
It's okay.
Jillian, did that resonate?
Yes, and I said wow at the end of it, so I was like.
Good. Thank you, and we'll take
Thank
one
you.
more, we'll do one more fluid sculpture for you, so somebody who has a different feeling about being here today that you'd like to share with us today?
Mark, it was insightful.
So you said that one more time?
Mark was insightful.
Okay, so you felt,
It gave you things to think about in a
Okay.
different perspective.
okay, and not all the Reflections cast members were here from the beginning of the day, so could you just capture what it was that Mark shared that was,
Enlightened.
it was enlightening? But specifically, could you share with us what it was that enlightened you so much?
Just thinking about how I need to think about other people.
Okay. Can you say
I know.
in a sentence what Mark's
I learned
talk helps you now to do when you leave here?
it made me learn how to better communicate with someone. Is that am I supposed to forget?
So it inspired you to be able to
Communication.
communicate better with the relationships that you have and
Right.
the relationships in your life.
Much
and to-
eloquence, yes.
And to think all about the different relationships and to think about how you're going to now approach those relationships in a different way.
Exactly.
Okay, great. So this is for Danella and her, what's that?
Oh, no, you can pick someone else.
No, we're
Oh, I thought you were just asking for
come
questions.
along the ride with us. Come along the ride.
I'm sorry.
And so this is for Danella, and we are going to be sharing that insightfulness that she's feeling and inspired to change relationships in her life from here on in. So let's watch.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah.
ah,
Yeah.
ah,
Yeah.
ah. I can do this.
Yeah.
Ah, I can do this.
Yeah.
Ah,
All
I
right.
can do this.
Yeah.
Ah, I can do this.
All right.
Yeah.
Ah, I can do this.
All right.
Ah.
Okay, great. So thank you so much. Let's give them a nice round of applause.